Is that a trick question? It feels like a trick question. Catherine whined. Alright, I shall humour you for now because you are in such a pathetic state. I love you simply because it's easy to love you, darling. You're my star, my light. You keep me right, always. You make me want to do good by you, to be a better person. You aren't even my wife yet, but the townspeople are already calling you their lady. I may have to hand you the marquedom myself? That is only because everyone in town knows who I am. Oh, I wonder why that is. Is it because you help sell vegetables in the marketplace on weekends? Or because you conspire with my cooks to hold impromptu picnics with the locals? You know about that. One can only sneak out that much food without getting noticed, madam. It amuses me how the servants cover for you upon inquiry as well. It was my idea, they're not to blame. I know, darling, I know. Guelamy chuckled and kissed her temple. It goes to show how your presence uplifts everyone's lives, including mine. But honestly, those reasons aren't exactly why. I love you, Kath, I just do, beyond what I thought I was capable of. Catherine's heart cracked with his last utterance. If I did something bad, would you still love me? Yes, I would. Are you sure? I'm sure. What if I've hurt an innocent person? What if I've hurt you? She bit her lip. What if I was unfaithful? Guelamy stared at her questioningly. Catherine buried her face in his chest. She felt his hand smooth away her hair. He whispered gently into her ear. You would still have me come back to me. Cho. What happened doesn't matter at all. You are not your mistakes, Kath. Guelamy cleared his throat. Suddenly, he seemed to be having trouble breathing. You have the power to change. How about you? If I told you that I'm not what I say I am, would you... What do you mean? Never mind. It's a silly question. What? Is something bothering you, Cho? I don't know how to say that, just saying. Guelamy turned his head away and closed his eyes. Nothing, darling. We should sleep now. Catherine patted away the frown on his brow. She traced his cheeks with her fingers. Guelamy, I do love you. Now I am more than certain. It gives my heart happiness to know for sure. What reminded me was your generosity. You give every bit of yourself to the people you love. Do you know that? Because I have to, darling. Well, you have always inspired me. I have always looked up to you. You treat everyone, no matter their status, with kindness. Never have I met a man more generous and thoughtful about others. A man with so much love to give. And that is why I love you. You are a good man. But if that's not what I really am? Catherine shook her head. You can't face sacrifice, Monsieur. Oh, I don't know. I have seen you care for the people in this town. I've seen how you've loved me. I don't care much for intention, you see. It's what we actually do that defines us. Guelamy paused, his voice choked up in his throat. Not always. Not always. Guelamy found Catherine's hand on his face and squeezed it. She stretched her neck and kissed his cheek. Catherine, you are always scared I will leave you. But the truth is, I know it is you who will leave me. And it hurts. What? You are different. I've loved you for so long. It scares me how deep I have rooted myself. Sometimes I deem it better to end this wretched existence, to save you from... What are you talking about, Guelamy? You're not making any sense. Is it your turn to scare me? I'm sorry. They didn't speak for a while. The air became a little uncomfortable. She could feel Guelamy's stressful breathing on her forehead. Catherine wondered what Guelamy was talking about, but it didn't seem like he wanted to discuss it further. When Guelamy started to calm down, Catherine thought it was best to sleep and ask him about it the next day. But Guelamy spoke again. His voice was low and serious. Catherine, you love me. With all my heart, Guelamy. I've loved you for what seems like my whole life. The candle flickered. Guelamy slipped his hands on Catherine's hair and gently pushed her face towards his. She closed her eyes and let the sensations of his lips take her. His mouth left sweet, sweet traces on her skin, as if washing away her sins, blessing her, anointing her. Catherine tasted salt in his kiss, like the taste of tears. She wanted to take away all his sorrows. Guelamy held her tightly, longingly. She drowned herself in his embrace. His palm caressed her neck as he kissed her, sliding down her arm and the curve of her waist. His fingers tugged gently on her skin. Catherine darted her tongue inside his mouth, and Guillaume answered it with his own. She wanted his every kiss. She felt pleasure to know he was hers. Her hands ran up and down his back as their kisses grew heavier. She felt him get excited, and she moved her hand between his legs. Ah, come on. Guillaume broke away. Kath, let's stop. You're tired. Catherine looked into his eyes and saw he wanted her despite his protests. After the events of that night, there was despair in Catherine that longed to be quenched. It was a selfish atonement, perhaps a hunger for self-worth. She ran her tongue over his lips. I want this. Kath. Catherine straddled him, dipping her head and plunging her tongue deep into his mouth. She opened his shirt, nibbling on his ear as she did. She could feel his manhood alive on her thigh. All right, then. She moved her hips. A distraught moan left his throat. She bit her lip coyly. It made her want to do more, the clench of his jaw, his aroused breath, the cord of his neck. They were her little trophies, her bliss. Catherine pulled his shirt free, traced a finger down his bare stomach, keeping the rhythm on her hips. He opened his mouth, his eyes fluttering. She watched in ecstasy as he bit his lip. To know that he couldn't resist her made her swell with pride. Guillaume grinded with her. He began to answer her passion with his own energy. Guillaume sat up on the bed, finally reaching for her, finally giving in. It felt like a victory to her. Well, this isn't that racy, is it? Guillaume grabbed her neck and pulled her face to him. His tongue bored deeply into her. Catherine pulled at his hair, surprised at his sudden intensity. Heat ran through her body. She savoured his dominance. His lips ran down her neck to her chest. He sucked on her collarbone while working the buttons on her blouse. He slipped the garment down with his teeth and kissed the bare skin experimentally. Every nerve felt tender. What is this music? It's creepy music. Every length of skin felt raw. It was a reminder, an awareness that her flesh was a living thing. Well, this is getting a bit racy. There was a build-up of tension as he squeezed her breast, planting soft, tiny kisses on its fullness. His hands hovered near her crotch. A stray finger would brush her sensitive spots almost innocently. It drove her mad. He was teasing her, studying her reactions with every touch. Catherine drew a sharp breath as... We're just gonna go past this, I feel like. I don't want to, like, miss anything weird. You love me, Catherine. Guillaume, Her voice came out throaty and thick. Laid her down on the bed. Alright. What's going on right now? I'm stuck. What's going on? Okay, he's just like... This is just unnecessary. Is this the mature thing? It's so annoying because this seems like important to the story for some reason. Or something alarming as she stared up at him. He didn't look like Guillaume in the shadows unlicked by candlelight. His features were the same, his eyes were in the same place, his nose and lips were in the same space. This man was a stranger. He did not care for her like how a snake did not care for its prey. For a brief second she was afraid. A tiny voice told her to run away, but that voice was washed away by a wave of carnal desire. The stranger grinned at Catherine. Ooh. Faster now. Blah blah blah. Run, rabbit, run. It's so annoying because, like, this is just awkward. it's well written and blah blah blah, but like it's just awkward. And but it seems like it's part of the story. He wants his farmer's pie. A winged creature engulfed in flame, both hot and cold and magnificent. Both beautiful and terrible, both dark and light. At times she would be on the bed with a man she might remember as she once loved. Other times she would be floating, suspended on a dark chasm of flesh. There was a creature with her, somebody she both loathed and adored. Sometimes there were two people, sometimes there was only him, only him. The The woman called Catherine didn't exist. She was merely an extension of his mind. Soon all of her would be gone, little by little disintegrating to be part of him forever. Catherine screamed. I'm not saying that. She was prepared to give everything to him. It didn't even seem a worthy sacrifice to lay at his feet, but no, all he asked for was her heart. That small, pathetic thing. Well, okay, to be fair, if this game has witches in it, it must have something else, and Rosa had the same kind of thing earlier. I'm very confused. You know what? I get it. I absolutely get this. Then tell me again. I want to hear it. Do you love me? I do. I love you. I love you so much. Okay. You taste just like the richest chocolate, the finest wine. I can't stop. My whole body shivers with the taste of her, her breath on my neck, her fingers scratching at my back. The sounds she makes as I push into her. Okay. Her lust gives me sustenance to move faster, to devour her faster. Stop. I knew waiting so long would be worth it. I have been her lover for years, and this flavor is divine. My head spins, my appetite swells. I can't stop. I bind her hands into a tight grip, push them above her head. Her legs squeeze my waist. I can feel her excitement mounting with her helplessness. I lick my lips in delight. I haven't breathed so deeply for a long time. You're taking too much. The love is exquisite. It is laced with anger, reverence, disappointment, pain, memories. All different relishes and morsels melding into one. Stop it. The love is a delicacy. You're destroying her. Can't stop myself. I haven't tasted this kind of love for so long. Flirtations and physical attraction can only get me by for so long. I was going to wait. There is a waning in her love, confusion, doubt, but that helping of guilt tinged the flavor perfectly. I must feed now. Her love is the most perfect tonight. My body wants her. I couldn't stop now even if I wanted to. Liar. And I almost let you escape. To save her. I almost ran away. I love her. I love her. And tomorrow? Maybe. What will become of her? I will find another, next time. Something insightful. I want to relish this taste a bit more. No, no. The mounting pleasure in my bones clamps on my groin. The numbness spreads to my stomach. It is almost painful. It goads me to increase my rhythm and she follows my lead. Good girl, good girl. With every move, I feel her love osmose into my other mouth. Ew. Clings to me, her moans louder, her bell. You know what? You love me, Catherine? Give me all your love, all of it. Give it to me. I want it all. It's mine, mine. Catherine, give me more. I want it. Is this done? Okay. Rosa stood in front of the door to Catherine's room, her hands raised to knock, but she didn't move. Doubt was creeping into her mind like a spider crawling on a wall. She remembered the feeling of hunger from the night they had kissed. It was both familiar and utterly alien, like an instinct, an urge she hadn't felt for a long time. A shiver ran down her spine at the memory. She's avoiding me, isn't she? She hadn't seen Catherine for a few days since that night. She'd been spending a lot of her time alone, locked away in her room. Whenever Rosa saw her in the chateau, she would excuse herself and leave. Rosa never got the courage to push the issue. But days had passed, and Catherine's behaviour began to worry her even more. Sorry. She's probably repulsed by you. What did you expect? After what you did to her, you little monster. Of course she will avoid you like the plague. I'm a mean mummy. No matter. She's never going to love you like Mother does. Like all the others, she's going to leave you in the end, and then you're all alone. Only Mother will stay with you forever and love you. So be a good child and listen to what I tell you. Rosa bit her lower lip. This was all her fault, wasn't it? She needed to make it right. If Rosa talked to her properly, she was sure they would come to an understanding. She had to explain to her what exactly. They had both been drunk and the kiss didn't mean anything. Her stomach churned at this thought. In the end, it didn't matter what Rosa wanted. Catherine obviously regretted what happened. She didn't want to lose her friend because of too much wine. Rosa gently knocked on Catherine's door. Catherine, may I come in? Please, Catherine, I'm sorry for the mess, but can we talk? Rosa waited for an answer. None came. Rosa turned the handle slowly and entered. Usually, Catherine's room was brightly lit. The windows let in a fresh breeze, often carrying the sweet smell of flowers in spring. Right now, however, the curtains were drawn closed. The few candles burning on the desk weren't enough to banish the darkness completely. The air hung heavy in the room. Catherine didn't turn around when the door opened. She just stood there, unmoving in front of a wall. The sounds of something scratching along the rough surface filled the air. Rosa felt a shiver run down her spine at this sound, and her muscles tensed instinctively. She approached Catherine slowly and apprehensively. When she came closer, she could hear Catherine was whispering the same few words over and over. He loves me not. Catherine giggled. He loves me not. Catherine, are you all right? Rosa stepped next to Catherine and peered at her outstretched hand. In the dim light, it took a moment for her to make sense of what she saw. Oh my god, she's going crazy. Catherine was scratching at the wall. The damage she had done to the wall was nothing compared to what she had done to her fingers. They were dripping with blood from where her skin was cracked and peeled back. Oh my god, Catherine, stop! Rosa's guts twisted horribly. She grabbed Catherine's shoulders to turn her around, away from the wall. She blinked a couple of times before finally reacting to Rosa's presence. Tears welled up in Catherine's bloodshot eyes at the sight of her friend, spilling over her pale cheeks and chapped lips. She held on tightly to Rosa and started sobbing uncontrollably. Cath, what's going on? Why are you hurting yourself? Catherine tried to pull herself together as best she could, wiping her nose on the sleeve of her bloody dress. It was heart-wrenching to look at the mess that her friend had become. Oh, Rosa, you need to help me. You need to protect me from him. Don't let him touch me. Who? Let him what? Why do you need me to protect you? Suddenly, Catherine shushed her, a finger to her lips and a scared expression on her face. She leaned an ear towards the door and listened intensely for a moment. Oh, he's here? The scared expression turned into manic and frightening glee. I think he's coming. Gwelemy, honey. Gwelemy, I love you. After yelling the last words, Catherine started sobbing again, with more tears streaming down her face. Before Rosa could try to console her, however, her sobs faded into hysterical laughter. It barely left time for her to gasp for breath. Oh, Gwelemy, I love the way you pull me close to hug me. And how kind you are to everyone you meet. And your eyes. What's going on here? Gwelemy stood in the door, frowning. His eyes wandered across the room and caught sight of Catherine. His face froze in shock. Catherine stared wide-eyed for a second, then she snarled at him like a ferocious animal. You bastard, get out of my room. Get lost. She stormed over to the desk and grabbed a letter opener from the table. With this weapon in a firm grip and malice in her eyes, she rushed to Gwelemy. Don't you dare show your face to me. Catherine, no. The knife plunged into Gwelemy's arms. Blood quickly stained his sleeve red, but Catherine only recoiled to strike back with no hint of stopping. My God, Catherine! They wrestled for a moment until Gwelemy was able to grab Catherine's hand. She dropped the letter opener and slumped to the floor, sobbing uncontrollably. Rosa quickly picked up the blade and stepped out of reach. When she turned around again, Gwelemy had already pulled Catherine into a tight embrace. Between her sobs and hiccups, Rosa could hear her apologizing. God, I'm so sorry, Gwelemy. What? I'm so sorry. Do you love me? Please, Gwelemy, do you love me? She repeated the question over and over again, no matter how many times Gwelemy reassured her. It was probably a good idea to find something to calm her down. Rosa didn't feel completely at ease doing so, but she left her friend alone with the Marquis for a few minutes. Later, she returned with a glass of water laced with valerian root. Gwelemy had already coaxed Catherine to lie down on her bed, while Rosa helped her drink the nightcap. They watched her in silence as she drifted into a fitful sleep. Gwelemy and Rosa left the room. They didn't speak for a while, both still dazed and shocked by the turn of events. How was your arm? Gwelemy hid the injured arm away from view. Fine, just a scratch. The bleeding hadn't stopped yet. Rosa could tell the cut was deeper than Gwelemy let on. What is happening? What has gotten into Catherine? Gwelemy just shrugged with a cold expression of worry on his face. I wish I knew, Rosa. The state she is in scares me, to be honest. It might be an onset of an episode waiting to happen. Like her sister before. Rosa's mouth tightened. How dare you say that? She is not crazy. Rosa searched his face for traces of a lie, but it was like a mask contorted by worry. Couldn't tell whether he was lying or telling the truth. She asked me to protect her from you. Did you hurt her? You know I wouldn't. She is unwell. It seems I am the target of her psychotic state. That is all I know. But why? Stop. Stop it, Rosa. It hurts me too, seeing her like this. Please stop questioning me further. But you did something to her. It's like you have two personalities in you or whatever. I'm going to call for a physician. Please stay with her in the meantime. See that she doesn't harm herself again. For a moment, he met her eyes. Before she could say more, however, he turned around and left. See if his pants have caught fire yet, child. There was nothing she could do about him for now. Rosa left to get a bowl of fresh water and a towel to tend to Catherine's fingers. Catherine had an uneasy sleep while Rosa cleaned her wounds as best as she could. She muttered, squealed, and whimpered like a child. It seemed that she was having a nightmare, but Rosa didn't dare wake her before the physician arrived. Instead, she stroked her hair, told her everything would be all right. She tried to appease the growing confusion of voices in her head. What had happened between Catherine and Guillemie? Their relationship was often erratic, but Rosa dismissed the possibility that this was one of their usual fights. Rosa remembered Catherine's face filled with utter spite at the man. She had never seen that much hatred in Catherine. After a few minutes, Catherine's eyelids fluttered open. She looked around with some confusion, then her gaze settled on Rosa. Tears welled up in her eyes. Rosa. Rosa held her outstretched hand. Her heart broke when she saw Catherine wince. Oh, Rosa, I'm so scared. Everything is such a mess. It's going to be all right, Cath. Don't worry now. Just try to sleep some more. No, you don't understand. Catherine tried to sit up, but Rosa pushed her down gently. You need to rest, Cath. I hate him. This is all his fault. She sniffed, but settled down on her pillow once more. When she spoke again, it was in a whisper. Rosa, She chewed on her dry, chapped lips for a moment, as if she couldn't get the words out. Don't think I love him anymore. What? A dry sob escaped her, followed by tears rolling down her cheeks. Had Catherine really just said that? But I don't understand this. When I think of him, Her voice cracked. She shuddered under the blanket like an ill breeze had just sprung it up in the room. It's like bugs are crawling under my skin. I can't bear to look at him anymore. I just can't. I can't even say his name. Why? Do you remember when exactly you started feeling this way? That night. Rosa winced. Catherine covered her face with her hands. It was a horrible night. Rosa's chest hurt. Was this her fault? She didn't know what she had done, but didn't she do something to her? I'm sorry. Catherine went on like she hadn't heard her. I went to his room. We spent the night together. Rosa waited for Catherine to continue, but the girl stared blankly. She just stopped speaking, as if forgetting she ever spoke at all. Cath, did he hurt you that night? No. Maybe? Catherine shook her head. I don't know. She grabbed her head and sobbed. The grip on Rosa's heart tightened. How can this be? Her eyes drowned in tears. I love him, Rosa, don't I? I remember everything. I love him, I know I do. I'm sure I do. But I hate him too, to the very core. I want to hurt him and punish him for something. I want to snuff out the breath from his throat. Sometimes Catherine's eyes went blank. I just don't care for him at all. Sometimes I feel nothing at all. And that scares me more. She laid on the bed, quiet now, letting the tears flow out of her eyes without wiping them. I'm going mad, Rosa. Catherine, I am, aren't I? Like my sister, like my mother. It runs in our blood. They said I'm a child of a mad woman. They said I'm going to turn out exactly like her. Rosa stroked her hair and tried her best to soothe her, saying that everything would be all right. They were empty words, but she didn't know what else to say. She wanted them to be true so badly, for her friend's sake as well as her own. Was Guillemie really the cause of Catherine's confusion and pain? Pangs of guilt pricked her like tiny needles. Or was this her fault? Rubbish, you fool. This is all his fault. I can feel it. We must get to the bottom of this. Yes, Mother. Rosa looked down on her best friend and nodded slightly to herself. Everything will be all right, Catherine, I promised. She would make it all right, somehow. She had to. The physician arrived shortly, but he did little to help Catherine. Catherine never regained her personality. She remained moody and irritable, breaking out into fits of hysterical laughter or heartbreaking sobs at seemingly random intervals. Guillemie and Rosa would take turns to tend to her. The moods fluctuated, her temper uncontrollable. There were times she begged for attention from Guillemie, almost clinging to him in despair, never letting him out of her sight. Other times she couldn't stand his very presence. Soon, neither Guillemie or Rosa could console her anymore. He withdrew entirely from the household. She starved herself, stopped coming to the meals, stopped caring for herself. Her manic episodes degraded to long stretches of blank silence. Emptiness ruled her life. Looking at her eyes in those last days, it was like a fire had been snuffed out behind them, like the star that had been shining through them had imploded. Ooh, chapter 5. In the once slumbering town, the streets were alive with flowers. Pretty young girls wrapped in thin white dresses lined up in their rows, tittering excitedly amongst themselves. Each maiden was armed with a basket brimming with flowers. When the clock struck 8, it was the given signal. Girl by girl, the rows progressed down the crowded street, their dresses twirling as they danced. Colours scattered as they unloaded their baskets. Dahlias, tulips, orchids, poppies, sweet peas, they all spiraled across the air and into the hands of the startled citizens. The young men on the street sprang into action. They cheered and hooted and clapped and laughed, and the girls curtsied to them in return. Some intrepid boys even dared to blow a kiss, hoping for a reward. And when the girls blew kisses back, they reddened to the tips of their ears and hooted in joy. Rose. Hey, Rose. At first, she didn't know who he was talking to, but then she saw the rose he flourished in front of her, like a gentleman's magic trick. Well, I'll have to call you something, right? How about Rose? This particular boy had been at her tail for several days now. The flower festival was a good excuse for romance. It was around this time that the young men of the town went around wooing their prospective lovers. Most would have gone for a taller, more outspoken type of girl, but for some reason this boy was smitten with her. Go on, take it. She shook her head. She knew she didn't deserve it. Again with that stone-cold act. Come on, you're breaking my heart. He laughed gaily, enjoying the thrill of courtship. Why do you love me so much? Is that what's bothering you? I'll tell you one thing, Rose, and you'd better remember this for the rest of your life. When someone loves someone, there's no need for a reason. I just love you, Rose. Won't you at least smile for me? You love me. He flashed his best youthful grin. Sure, I love you, to the moon and back. She knew she shouldn't take the rose. She knew it was wrong. And yet she also knew at this instant that her face was burning hot. Her fingers closed on the rose. Even as she felt the thorns on her skin, she still held on to it. The expression on the boy's face was one of absolute bliss. He hooted and did a little dance. I do love you, Rose. I really do. He grinned at her. To her surprise, she found herself smiling back. A warm, pleasant feeling gushed inside her. It was like tucking into a hot, home-cooked meal. Mother, I'm home. Nowadays, she and her mother lived in a quiet cottage far away from the main streets. The joy and exuberance of the flower festival had long since faded away now, leaving her with the stillness of the lonely house. Mother, are you home? There was no answer, not even a sound. Usually her mother would have heard the door open by now. She would run up and plaster her with hugs and kisses. Now, however, the unnerving silence meant one of two things. One, Mother was not here, which wasn't possible because she was always here. Or two, Mother was angry. Rosa felt a chill run down her spine as she realized. Was it possible that Mother had her suspicions and had followed her? Mother, I'm coming inside now. The sound of the door closing was like a clash of thunder. Rosa, bowing her head, descended deeper into the house. Mother was in the kitchen. She was bent down with her back to the doorway, washing clothes in a wooden basin. She looked just like a normal mother, but Rosa knew better, because just above Mother hung the cross. It was a heavy wooden crucifix, and it had been there as long as Rosa could remember. It was so solid that if it were to drop, it would crush someone's toe. The girl knew this well, having felt the cross so many times. She knew exactly how heavy it was. Sharp corners of the cross were especially capable of drawing blood. Mother dipped her hands into the water. Squish, squish. She crushed the clothes in a vice grip. Where did you go? A sudden question sliced through the air, and Rosa almost jumped out of her skin. Just to the marketplace, Mother. She tried to press the plump rose behind her to stomp on it and make it disappear into the ground, but it was too late. Mother stood up. Mother, it's not what you think, I swear. I'm not planning to see him again. I just wanted to make him happy, that's all. Rosa looked at Mother any longer. She thought her courage would dry up, so she quickly glanced at her feet. I'll throw away the rose. I'll make sure you never see it again, so... Oh, Jesus Christ. The blow came so fast she never expected it. Suddenly she was on her knees, her skull throbbing in pain. She looked up just in time to see her mother raise the cross another time. Fear overtook her. Although she knew it was no use running, she scrambled away all the same. Mother, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. How much do you think raising a child costs, you little rat? Mother, please. Undeterred, the cross slammed hard on Rosa's collarbone. She shrieked, rolled over, and tried to get back to her feet. I clothe you, I house you, I even feed you. I protect you from everything that might harm you. And yet I ask for nothing in return, absolutely nothing. Didn't I tell you not to go to that festival? Yet you just can't help shaking your hips at those men, can you? All of them are the same, didn't I say it? Up and down came the cross. By now Rosa had resorted to curling up into a ball and covering her eyes. Cried out her pleas, her vows of obedience and love. Do you have any idea how much I've sacrificed? What have I wasted my life for? To be stuck with a stupid child who doesn't know how to listen. I have told you time and time again, do not disobey me. Mother, I should have smothered you years ago. You are a curse. I do all this for you to protect you, and you repay me how? With lies and betrayal? I should have thrown you out the window and watched the crows feed on your remains. It's not too late now, don't you think? Maybe I should teach you a harder lesson. Maybe I should leave here right now and never come back. Worse than any physical pain, the girl felt a despair so big it made her heart burst. Rosa clung to her mother's legs. Please, Mother, please don't leave me. I'll atone for this somehow, Mother, so please stay with me. You are beyond atonement, you degenerate whore. Jesus Christ. With one final strike, Mother sent her spinning to the ground. The cross had hit her face. Rosa tried to open her eyes and felt something warm trickle down her face. She lay on the floor, crying. Her tears mixed with the blood, and she wondered if Mother really was going to walk out of the house. She could still hear Mother's footsteps, feet thudding near to her head. At first they were hard and fast, then slow and hesitant. At some point in time, Rosa realized that the blows had stopped. She dared not raise her head from the floor, so she waited. Something touched her head. It wasn't a cross, but a soft, warm hand. The sound of a sob. Darling? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. What have I done? Rosa tensed, but she allowed Mother to sit her up. The next thing she knew, Mother had wrapped her arms around her. She was still crying. You poor thing. I'm so sorry. Mother is so stupid. Her tears were genuine and mournful. The sorrow in her eyes hurt 1,000,000 times more than any blow. I shouldn't have done that. The woman stared at her hands. She dropped the cross as if it was spoiled meat. The girl let her mother hug her. It was her fault anyway. She had disobeyed Mother. She deserved the punishment. She drowned herself in her arms and felt the familiar surge of love. This was home. Home. No matter how broken. Life before Mother was a blur. She was nothing without her. Mother looked into her eyes and touched her face, wiping away her tears. She locked her lips around hers and delivered a long, deep kiss. What the fuck? I love you so much, my darling. Please forgive me. I love you too, Mother. Don't cry. Oh, you're bleeding. Just wait here. Mother sat on her chair and returned with a roll of bandages. She began nursing Rosa's head with delicate care. I'm sorry, Mother. No, I'm the one who's sorry. Forgive me for what I said. You know I would never leave you, right? Even if you had committed the foulest sin, I would never desert you. I will always be by your side. Thank you, Mother. I get worried, darling, you understand? Yes, I'm very afraid, always afraid. The woman's voice dropped into a whisper, a sudden split second of lucidity. You scare me. She shook her head, forgetting the thought. Just obey me from now on, promise? Mother knows what's best for you. Yes, Mother. Later on at dinner time, Rosa's favourite dish was on the menu. A vegetable and meat stew with brown gravy that only her mother would make. Rosa tucked in eagerly, all the while feeling the cool bandage pressing lightly against her forehead. The events of the past hour had already seemed to fade away into a distant memory. Mother sat across the table, also eating. She seemed to be deep in thought. Mother? I won't see that boy anymore. If he calls out to me, I'll run until he can't catch me. I know you will do the right thing, my darling. You didn't ask for all of this, did you, you poor thing? If only your father was a better man. Here, Rosa pricked up her ears. It was rare to hear Mother talk about father, and even rarer to see her mention him so calmly. All throughout her life, Rosa had wondered about the man whom Mother had fallen in love with. Now it looked like she had an opportunity to glean a few more rare bits of information. Father, was he good to you? Mother puckered up her lips and appeared to ignore this. Rosa decided to risk it and asked another question, tentatively. Did you love him a lot? Mother's eyes were somewhere far away. I don't know. No emotion, neither pain nor fondness, registered on her face, but he certainly loved me back then. Maybe. Now I'm smarter, I know better than to trust men like him. You too will understand when you grow up that people who love you will hurt you the most, and you will only have yourself to blame. After all, you gave them permission to rearrange the awnings of your soul. Do not give anyone that permission. Rosa nodded, accepting her mother's teachings. Promise me, darling, when the time comes and you meet a demon like your father, you'll take revenge for me. Take revenge for me. Alright, so we'll continue this in the next video. Bye.